What's going on, guys, and welcome back to today's Daily News Report. So today we are going to talk about some major news. The first one is President Biden's roughly $3 trillion in budget cuts. What are we going to see there? Well, we got some news out from the White House, so I will address what's coming out there. That is also going to be addressed later on today by President Biden himself, and I will give you an update on that once we get it. So that's the first thing we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about federal workers getting a 5.2% pay raise and how you are going to be paying for it. And then we will talk about the jobs report that is coming out tomorrow, March 10th. So we have a little bit of updates on that as well. But again, let's get right down to it. And if you have any questions whatsoever, please ask your questions down in the comment section below. All I ask is if you can spend just 2 seconds, go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe, and let's get started. So here's what we know. President Biden has a plan to reduce the federal deficit. But what is in this plan? Well, as of recording this, the plan completely has not been released. But here's what we know as of right now. The White House states that the federal budget would cut deficits by $3 trillion over the next 10 years. President Biden has also floated a new tax on people making income over $100 million. Yes, this is pretty much the billionaire tax. Anybody making over $100 million per year is going to receive pretty much a new tax. He called for lower prescription drug prices. I think there's a lot more people that are on board with the lower prescription drug prices than people that are wanting to pay or have billionaires pay just because they make over $100 million. There's also a tax on stock buybacks. This would actually be 4 times what the tax is currently. So again, if you are going to perform stock buybacks, well, you're going to have to pay for it. And obviously those earning more than $400,000 per year would pay a little bit extra through a Medicare tax. It would go from 3.8% to 5%. Now, this is where it's a hard no from Republicans. Republicans have stated that President Biden wanting to give federal workers a 5.2% raise is insane. They are saying, this according to the House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer, he said he is a Republican. He says, and I quote, President Biden is continuing to ensure that federal workers' pay and benefits are insulated from the price tag of inflation, but it will be paid for by American taxpayers who continue to be harmed by the Biden administration's inflationary policies. Now, I just want to come out and say one thing. Paying a federal worker more money when the average worker, the low-income households, even the middle-income households, they're the ones that are footing the bill, that's crazy. To do something like that in this economic climate is insane. But again, it doesn't stop there. Here's what else would be included in President Biden's budget. And again, these are just coming out of the White House, but later on today, we should have the full report. So once we get that, I will address that most likely later on tonight or this evening. So make sure you stick around and subscribe and come back to watch that one. But here's what else is included. President Biden wants to expand the ability of Medicare. He wants to expand the ability of Medicare to negotiate on pharmaceutical drug prices, saving an estimated $160 billion over a decade. And we knew this was coming. He's talked about this before. He also wants to auction off rights to the radio spectrum. This is going to generate about $50 billion again over the next 10 years. He wants to take new steps to reduce identity theft and unemployment insurance fraud. This would be a good thing. Identity theft has never been this is never a good thing. And then unemployment insurance fraud. There's a lot of money stolen. Okay, there was a lot of fraud that went on during the pandemic, especially when we were getting $600 in additional enhanced unemployment benefits, and it went from $600 to $400. There's a lot of money stolen. There's billions of dollars stolen, and they have no clue how to get it back. President Biden also wants to target insurance companies that overcharge Medicaid with anticipated savings of $20 billion through payments to the government. $20 billion could go a long ways. He also wants to end subsidies valued at $31 billion for oil and gas companies. Oil and gas companies, and just throwing my 2 cents here, oil and gas companies have been raking in the profits, okay? Which lawmakers are now questioning, why are they making so much money when gas prices kept going up, right? Because oil companies are saying that it costs more money now, but how are they making so much more money? It's not like we used that much more. Well, we're going to see, but ending subsidies is one way that they're going to lose a little bit of money. He also wants to scrap a $19 billion tax break for real estate investors. Now, even though, and there's more to this plan, that's really all we have so far, but as soon as we get more information on that, I will bring you that update as soon as possible. But here's what I can tell you. There's a lot more to this, but lawmakers from both parties believe that this budget, it won't see the floor in either the House of Representatives or the Senate. Senator Mitch McConnell, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, stated that this won't see the light of day. We also know Republicans in the House are not going to vote this. They're not going to vote on this. Why would they vote on raising taxes to billionaires and multimillionaires? Why would they raise taxes to corporations? Why would they agree to let the American people foot the bill for federal workers? They're not going to do that. So they have already stated this bill will not see the floor in the House of Representatives. So again, this plan is pretty much dead on arrival. It's not going to go anywhere. But according to a few Democrats, they say there's just too many changes that need to be made, and these changes will be made. So we'll see what the changes are once this budget is actually released, what it looks like, and how many people publicly oppose it. So as we get more information on that, again, I will fill you in on that once we get it. Let's talk about the jobs report. So the jobs report comes out tomorrow, okay, March 10th, 2023. Now, this is going to be a very important jobs report. And the reason why this is a very important jobs report is simply because this is one of the things that the Federal Reserve is looking at. Well, what we already know is that ADP says private payrolls rose by 242,000 people for the month of February. This report from last month, we saw jobs rise by 119,000, and the estimate this month was for 205. We also know leisure and hospitality led the job growth by 83,000 additions, and financial activities rose by 62,000. Something else we learned is that job cuts from January to February were the highest since 2009. The tech sector accounted for more than a third of the 180,000 job cuts that were announced. But what about these available jobs? Because again, we're seeing job cuts, but what about the available jobs? Well, this number fell. It fell to 10.8 million available jobs in January. This number is down substantially from the 11.23 million jobs back in December. And for January, the January JOLTS report, this showed that hiring increased to 6.37 million from 6.25 million. So again, there's a lot of interesting things happening right now when it comes to jobs and employment. But one thing I can tell you is the Federal Reserve is looking at this because they are worried that more employment will equal more inflation. So again, that's what we know at this time. Thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.